It was Monday morning, and the school hallway buzzed with the usual chaos: lockers slamming, sneakers squeaking on polished floors, and voices rising in youthful excitement. But when she stepped in, everything stopped. Her name was Eliza, a thin, quiet girl with tangled hair, oversized hand-me-down clothes, and shoes so broken you could see her socks poking through. She walked slowly, her eyes glued to the floor, as if trying to disappear with every step. Laughter erupted behind her. Look at her shoes. Are those even real? She probably dug those out of the trash. A group of students leaned against the lockers, their mockery loud, sharp, and cruel. One girl took out her phone and whispered, "This'll go viral." Eliza said nothing. She didn't even look up. From the corner, the janitor, Mr. Ronnie, stood with his mop watching the scene. He shook his head and chuckled, not bothering to hide it. "Some kids just don't belong here," he muttered to himself. No one defended her. No one stopped the bullying. And no teacher was in sight. Eliza walked to the far end of the hallway and sat alone near the janitor's closet, where the scent of bleach hung heavy in the air. She took out a sandwich wrapped in napkin, not foil, not a box, just napkin. Half of it was already squished, but she ate it quietly. Later that day, during homeroom, her name was called. "Eliza, Principal Hamilton would like to see you." Gasps filled the room. Nobody ever got called to the principal's office unless they were in trouble. And Eliza? She hadn't even spoken a word since school began. As she walked down the hallway, students whispered, some giggling, some confused. In the principal's office, a woman in a gray suit sat waiting. Her eyes were piercing, her posture straight, and she looked powerful, like someone who was used to being listened to. Eliza paused at the door, confused. The principal, Mr. Hamilton, looked uneasy. His usual confident expression was replaced by a nervous smile. "Eliza, please come in." You remember Miss Catherine, don't you?" She nodded slowly. The woman stood and walked over, kneeling in front of Eliza. "You okay, baby?" The room fell silent. "Baby?" Eliza's eyes welled up. She nodded again, trying to hold back tears. Mr. Hamilton cleared his throat. "She's been placed in my care temporarily, but as of today, Miss Catherine has full legal guardianship restored." The words didn't register with the secretary standing outside, but she caught the tone. Something big was happening. By lunch, rumors were flying across the school. "Did you see the lady in the black car? They said she owns a tech firm or something. Wait. Is Eliza her daughter?" Meanwhile, the janitor stood in the break room, sipping cheap coffee and chuckling. "Figures. These rich types always drop their kids off to be raised by strangers, then act surprised when they're a mess." But he was wrong. Miss Catherine wasn't just some tech exec. She was the CEO of one of the largest education funding nonprofits in the country, one that donated millions to inner-city schools and underprivileged youth programs. And no one knew that little Eliza had been through more in her 11 years than most adults had in their entire lives. Foster homes, neglect, loss, and now a second chance. That afternoon, the luxury black car returned. Miss Catherine stepped out again, this time with 2 security officers and a counselor. All eyes followed her as she walked through the hallway. Phones snapped photos. Teachers peered from classrooms. Even the bullies from earlier stood frozen. Then she stopped, right in front of Mr. Ronnie, the janitor. "You're the one who laughed, right?" He blinked. Ma'am, I didn't mean kids." They joke around. Catherine didn't yell. She didn't even raise her voice. She just said, calmly, "You know what's worse than a bully, Mr. Ronnie? An adult who laughs with them." Then she turned to Alyssa, who was standing behind her, dressed in the same clothes, same shoes, but this time her shoulders were just a little bit higher. Catherine placed a hand on Eliza's back and whispered, "Let them laugh. You'll be the one writing their report cards one day." The crowd went silent. Even the air felt different. The hallway was still. Even the usual chatter seemed to vanish as Miss Catherine and Eliza walked away, leaving behind a stunned crowd and a janitor who suddenly felt very small. Ronnie stared at the mop in his hand. Just this morning he'd been chuckling like everyone else. He thought he was blending in, keeping the peace, but now his face was red. Not just from embarrassment, but from something deeper, shame. He mumbled under his breath, "Didn't know she had people like that behind her." In the counselor's office, Eliza sat quietly, still unsure of what all this meant. Her fingers fiddled with the corner of her shirt. She didn't speak, didn't cry. She just listened. Ms. Catherine sat beside her, not as a CEO, but as a mother, gentle, strong, calm. The counselor smiled warmly. "Eliza, we'll be putting together a personalized support plan. You'll get new supplies, a uniform voucher, tutoring, and we'll also be meeting with the students involved in the bullying." Eliza looked up slowly. "They won't like me." Catherine leaned in and said softly, "They don't have to like you. They have to respect you, and if they don't, that's on them, not you." It was the first time Eliza smiled since entering that school. The next day was different. She didn't walk alone. She didn't sit near the janitor's closet. Instead, she entered wearing clean clothes, freshly brushed hair, and a quiet confidence that wasn't there before. Still, the whispers were there too. "That's her," the janitor laughed. "Girl, I heard her mom's gonna buy the school. I heard the janitor's getting fired." In the cafeteria, she sat alone again, but not for long. A boy with curly hair and braces walked over, tray in hand. "Hey, I'm Marcus. That seat taken?" She shook her head. He sat down. "My sister's shoes looked like that once," he said, nodding at her old ones, which she still wore. "She wore 'em till they split in half. People laughed at her too. Now she's a sneaker designer in New York." Eliza smiled. That smile started a ripple. By the end of the week, more students were saying hi. Some out of curiosity, some out of guilt, but a few out of real kindness. The bullies? They were quieter now. One even mumbled an apology in the hallway, barely audible, but enough to show that things were shifting. But Ronnie? Ronnie couldn't let go of what happened. He'd seen countless kids come and go, some rich, some poor. He always told himself he was neutral. But Eliza's face haunted him. One day, he stood outside the staff lounge, watching as Catherine met with the principal again. The door was slightly open. "She deserves better," Catherine said firmly. "And not just Eliza, every child who walks in here." Mr. Hamilton nodded. "We've initiated sensitivity training. And Ronnie's on a final warning. I didn't expect you to follow up like this. Catherine's eyes narrowed. I always follow up, especially when it comes to children who've already been through hell. Ronnie's hand clenched the mop tighter. He'd cleaned that school for 18 years. He'd been invisible to most, but this time he wished he was. That weekend, something strange happened. Ronnie knocked on Catherine's office door, not the school, but her real office downtown. Polished glass walls, modern furniture, sleek design. Security tried to wave him off, but she saw him on the camera and allowed him in. He stood there, cap in hand. I came to say sorry. Catherine didn't speak. I didn't know, he continued. I thought she was just another charity case. I didn't think. I wasn't trying to hurt her. She's not a charity case, Catherine said, voice cold. She's a human being. One that adults like you are supposed to protect. Ronnie looked down. I got a daughter, he whispered. Same age. Wears better shoes, but sometimes I think she's worse off. At least Eliza's got someone strong in her corner. Catherine paused, then sighed. Ronnie, if you truly mean it, do better. Not just for Eliza, for every kid you see dragging those same shoes down a hallway. He nodded. Yes, ma'am. And for the first time, he walked out not as a janitor, but as a man trying to make things right. Meanwhile, Eliza's file was updated. The school was applying her for a gifted program. She had shown signs of exceptional learning ability, something no one noticed before. Why? Because no one ever looked. Now, her teachers were paying attention. She was asking questions, reading in the library, smiling, participating. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was becoming outside the school. The same luxury car waited for her each day. But now, it wasn't a symbol of mystery or power. It was a promise that no matter how broken your shoes are, no matter how hard your past has been, you are worth more than laughter, more than judgment, and far more than silence. The days turned into weeks. Eliza was no longer invisible. Teachers began to notice her quick thinking, her deep questions, and the way she'd quietly help other students when no one else was looking. She wasn't loud or flashy, but her presence was undeniable now. But that didn't mean things were perfect, because some people, they hate change, especially when it shines a light on what they've been ignoring. In a private group chat, the same group of bullies who once laughed at Eliza were planning something again. So now she's some kind of genius? Her mom bought her way in. We should remind her where she came from. And they did. The next morning, Eliza opened her locker to find her old torn shoes stuffed inside. A sticky note was taped to them. These fit you better. Stay in your place. Students saw it. Some laughed. Others looked away. But Eliza? She just stared. Then slowly, she picked up the shoes, held them for a second, and dropped them in the trash. In the office, Ms. Catherine was already meeting with the principal. She looked up when Eliza entered, holding the note. Eliza handed it over silently. Catherine read it, her jaw tightening. The principal stood. I'm going to pull the security footage. We'll take this seriously. But Catherine didn't respond right away. Instead, she asked, Eliza, do you want me to handle this? Eliza paused. Then shook her head. I want to do it my way. That afternoon, During the weekly school assembly, the principal announced a special presentation. "Students," murmured in confusion. Eliza walked onto the stage, holding something in her hand, a pair of shoes, but not just any shoes. Her old ones, the ones people laughed at, the ones that were used to humiliate her. She stood in front of the mic, her voice steady but soft. "These shoes walked me through 6 foster homes. These shoes carried me on days I didn't eat. These shoes took me into a school that laughed the moment I arrived." The auditorium went completely silent. "But these shoes also carried me through every single test one passed, every book I finished, every night I didn't give up." She held them up high. "So if you think these shoes define me, you're right, they do. They define my strength." The crowd was frozen. Then one person stood up. It was Marcus, the boy who once shared a table with her. He clapped. Slowly. More hands joined. The clapping grew louder until the auditorium was shaking with applause. And the bullies? They shrank in their seats, unnoticed, unseen, the way they once treated her. After the assembly, everything changed again, but this time for good. The school board reached out. They invited Eliza to speak at a youth leadership summit. A video of her speech went viral on TikTok captioned, "Poor girl turns pain into power." People began sharing their own stories in the comments. "I had shoes like that too." Cried. "Watching this, she's so strong. This girl's going places." Back at school, Mr. Ronnie watched the video from his phone during lunch break. He wiped his eyes and smiled. "She's ahead of us all," he whispered. A month later, something incredible happened. A man in a dark suit visited the school, escorted by security. He was from the Department of Education. He asked to meet Eliza. In front of the staff and a few reporters, he handed her a letter. "On behalf of the National Youth Leadership Council, we are proud to offer you full sponsorship to attend our summer program. You've shown courage, character, and compassion in a way adults often fail to." The school cheered again. Even the principal looked humbled. Catherine placed her hand on Eliza's shoulder and smiled. "You didn't just walk through this school, baby. You walked through them." That night, while sitting in her room, Eliza pulled out a blank journal. On the first page, she wrote, "Day 1. I am no longer the girl with broken shoes. I am the girl who walked through storms and didn't stop." She closed the book, her eyes finally full of peace. Outside her window, city lights flickered. The world was still unfair, still cruel, still divided, but now she wasn't afraid of it. Summer came quickly. Eliza arrived at the National Youth Leadership Summit, a quiet girl from a forgotten corner of the world, now standing beside the sons and daughters of CEOs, senators, and scholars. But she didn't flinch. She didn't shrink. She didn't hide her past. She shared it. During her introduction, she didn't speak of trophies or grades. She spoke of the hallway where no one stood up for her. And the moment she chose to stand for herself, the crowd didn't just clap. They stood. Her story spread like wildfire, not because it was flashy, but because it was real. Teachers started using her speech in classrooms. Nonprofits asked her to speak. One famous author even reached out to co-write a children's book inspired by her journey. Back at her old school, a poster now hung outside the main hallway. Respect. Every step You don't know the road someone has walked. Eliza's photo was on it, holding the same old shoes that once defined her pain, now transformed into a symbol of her strength. Years later, that same hallway echoed with new footsteps. Students walked with confidence, kindness, and curiosity. Bullying wasn't gone forever, but now it wasn't ignored. Not anymore, because one girl in broken shoes chose to walk anyway, and that choice changed everything. Final moral: it's not what's on your feet that defines you, it's what you do with every step you take. Even torn shoes can walk you into destiny if you never stop moving forward.